Welcome to the Spiral Up podcast. I'm your host, Dr. LaChelle Wieme, a peak performance coach and business strategist dedicated to helping you see what's possible within you, the blind spots that are holding you back, and the solutions to ensure success and fulfillment without the hustle. I use my secret sauce of metaphysics, brain science, and scripture to work with God to manifest your ideal life and business. If you're ready to create massive forward momentum in your business and bust through the blocks that drag you down, join me on the Spiral Up journey and create the clarity, confidence, and consistency to become the CEO that lives your life by design. It's time to create the sustainable impact, income, and time freedom you desire faster. Now is the time to spiral up. Hey, everybody. Whoop, whoop. Let me get a hallelujah for getting all of this amazingness started today. It is so much fun to kick off the very, very first episode of the Spiral Up podcast. If you guys are watching me on my YouTube channel, you know that I have my sparkly dress on today with my dangly golden earrings so that I can celebrate with you in the highest vibration of this next layer of my life, this next level of my life. I am literally spiraling up, and I want to take all of you guys along with me. So you guys have been following me along for a while. You know that I have been pouring into you through the Unstuck podcast for 3.5 years now. And it was just time. Honestly, I had outgrown the Unstuck space, and it was time for me to start spiraling up. And it was time for me to take you guys alongside of my journey with me. And so I am so stinking glad to be here. Now, I feel like maybe there is a little residual energy showing up today because I have to tell you guys that I just got back from an amazing time in Costa Rica just literally hours ago. So I'm still in this beautiful high vibration of knowing that I literally changed people's lives. We transformed people's lives. And you guys, like, it was beyond anything that I could have imagined for myself. Now, I had a lot of details going into this. This is not my first retreat, but I just made the decision last year when I left that I wanted it to be even better. Last year, it exceeded my expectations. I wanted it to exceed my expectations again. And so I had a handful of lovely ladies who joined me on an intimate journey to discover who they are and to discover what they're capable of and to really build the identity of the person capable of making it happen and really recognizing the tools and the strategy that it takes to execute that when we get home, right? And I just am going to tell you guys a little bit about that experience because it's worth sharing. It's worth showing you guys what's possible. And honestly, it's going to be fun for me to listen to this again when I can think back at what an amazing experience this was and can kind of document it right here inside the very, very first Spiral Up podcast. So we traveled to Costa Rica, and I'll be honest with you, like, I was a little nervous. It was in a semi-remote location that did not allow for us to fly into like a major airport and then, take a quick taxi drive to get there. This was an adventure. It was a flight into San Jose. And then from that, we had to walk about a block to a small airport right outside of the main hub to get on a tiny little airplane. And I want to say that it maybe held 12 people. Like, it wasn't a very big airplane at all, to take us into the small town of Tambor. And the airstrip, you guys, for real, the airstrip was this tiny little, looked like a 2-lane highway in the middle of the jungle, right off the ocean. And we just landed right into that. We got the most amazing views of Costa Rica and the beautiful turquoise waters as we were flying in. We took this very short up and down little taxi ride to our villa. And we walked in, and I knew that it was going to be beautiful. The pictures were stunning. And I knew that it was going to be a next level. But when I opened those doors, you guys, I have to tell you, like, it blew me away. The house was even better than the pictures had showed. It was way bigger than what I had anticipated. And you walked into this beautiful grand front door into this massive living room space that overlooked the pool. So like floor to ceiling windows that overlook the hot tub, the pool, this little hut that you could sit and read a book in the shade right next to the pool area, the lush greenery because we were in the jungle, right on the beach. It was absolutely absolutely stunning. Every single bedroom had its own ensuite, and you felt like a queen inside of these bedrooms, which was outstanding. Now, I have to tell you guys another little story about this retreat, because all of this stuff really does tie into the things that I teach, the things that have to do with quantum physics and scripture and brain science. And I could have let myself get in the mindset that this was going to be too much for people, too much to travel, have to get on another little plane, too much to afford to be able to come to this luxurious place, too much for me to ask of people, too much, too much, too much. Like, it doesn't matter where you're at in your business, if you're brand new or if you are at the top of a multi-million-dollar company. We all experience these moments of doubt and these moments of imposter and these moments of fear and wondering if we have what it takes, wondering if people want what we have, wondering if, we present enough value to people, right? So I was experiencing all of those same things. And just having to put the faith in myself, put the faith in God that he had led me to this place, put the faith in all of the things. And what was so interesting is that I had been scoping out 2 different places that I was going to pick for the retreat. And one of them was in Mexico. One of them was in Costa Rica, because I had researched, the best places to go for this time of year. And Costa Rica was one of the choices. And when one of the participants had told me that Costa Rica has been on her vision board, I'm like, well, decision made, like, done. We're going to Costa Rica. But there was something about the villa that I had chosen that just wasn't sitting right with me. And so when she had said that, I decided to go on Airbnb one more time and just see what was there. And you guys, that's when this beautiful villa showed up that I'd never seen before in all of the searches, like literally dozens of searches. This had never shown up before. It was available. It rarely is available. And like I said, it was even better than what I could have imagined. So that trusting my intuition of not knowing that the housing that I had looked at wasn't quite right. And I waited. And the moment that I saw this villa, I knew that this was the one. I prayed on it. I slept on it overnight. And I said, Lord, if it's still available, and if I still feel the same way I do when I wake up, God, please just guide me through this process. I'm gonna book this retreat center, or this villa for the retreat. The next morning, woke up still super excited. It was available, booked it, and the concierge was freaking phenomenal on helping me get all of the things lined up, right? So that was when I had to lean into my fears a little bit and trust that this is where I was supposed to be. So anyway, I walk into this house, and it is like massive. It is beautiful. It is beyond anything that I could have imagined. And I was just like in my space, and I was getting all of my things ready for everybody. I had gift bags and beautiful things for everybody in their rooms, and all the things ready for the binders and all the things. And my assistant, Jamie, came up to me and she's like, hey, LaChelle, so don't panic. And then she kind of laughed. She's like, okay, so that's something that we should never say to somebody, like, don't panic, but for real, like, you might want to panic. And she's like, so just so you know, like, I was just confirming with our personal chef that, today's the day. We had been conversing back and forth with him for weeks now to get the final menu options and all the details just perfect. And he said to us, oh my gosh, for some reason, I put you guys in my calendar for November. Like, he wasn't even in the country. He was in Argentina. And I was literally 2 hours before my first guest was supposed to arrive. And my personal chef was a no-go, right? And it's like, okay. All right, God, like, I know that you've got this. And one of the things that I teach my clients is we have to expect that things are going to turn out. And it's when we doubt that they don't, right? And in the quantum world, you have to be able to put out this energy that with thanksgiving and expectation that it's on its way to you, because God placed that desire in your heart. You know that he's got your back, and you have to lean in and you have to trust him with 100% faith. The faith of a mustard seed can move mountains, right? But it's the doubt that gets us in trouble. And I had just got done reading a book called The Little Blue Book on Metaphysics Made Simple. And she had talked about how when we pray, we enter a space of doubt and we literally neutralize that prayer. It's like, this is what I know you're sending me, God, and I thank you. But there's a little piece of me that doesn't believe it. And it literally neutralizes that prayer. And so God tells us, Jesus told us over and over again to have faith, to not doubt. And so I'm like, okay, I got this, right? And I also find that a lot of people have prayed for things over the years, but they didn't see them come to fruition. So then that leads to these seeds of doubt. Like, well, I prayed for that and it didn't happen, so this doesn't really work, right? When in reality, God always has our back. He always can turn bad things into the good for those who believe, right? And so I always add to the ending of my prayer that I'm so happy and grateful. And I expect with thanksgiving, because I know, Lord, that you can accomplish more than anything I could have asked for. And I expect this, and I thank you for this, right? Or something better, this or something better, because I know that if he doesn't answer my prayers the way that I want to, he's always going to come back and give me something even better. Maybe it's a lesson. Maybe it's, he knew that I wasn't ready, so it was the refining of myself. Maybe it was, like I said, something better is on its way. So going back to the chef, so here we are, like a couple hours from the what do we call it? Like the guests showing up. And I didn't have anybody lined up at all. We don't have a vehicle. We're out kind of in the middle of the jungle next to the ocean. And like, oh my gosh, like, what am I going to do? And it's like, nope, I have to practice what I preach. It's like this or something better, Lord. Like, I know that you have in store for us everything that's supposed to be. And I can't wait to see how you handle this, to see what you come up with, because it's going to be even better than what I could have imagined. Sure enough, one of the chefs that we had conversed with earlier was available. So our concierge, Florencia, who is freaking amazing, she's like, hey, I wonder if Lucho is available. Let me find out. I'll take this and run with it, and we'll see what we can do. But don't worry, like, we got this. And she totally did. So Lucho was originally off for that week. We had talked to him earlier, and we chose a different chef because I think we just gotten to chatting a little bit earlier. And honestly, you guys, like, Lucho was more expensive. And I kind of forgot that fact. But after the fact, when I was thinking about this, Lucho was more expensive. He was a little fancier. And that's probably, subconsciously why I didn't choose him in the first place. And so here we are. And I said, gosh, I brought cash for this, and I brought what I could pay the other chef. And so I don't have any more cash to pay him. Is he willing to do it for what the last chef had agreed to doing? And absolutely he was. So I literally had access to a better chef than what I would have if my original plan would have gone through. And we ended up tipping him like crazy. So it turned out better for him as well, because he actually probably got what he was originally charging in the first place. And so it's just like, when you can trust that it's this or something better, knowing that it's going to come to fruition, even if it's not exactly the way that you wanted it to, trusting that. And that allows us to stay in the space of being able to receive amazing miracles all the time. Okay. So like, how fun is that? Over and over again throughout this retreat, I saw the manifestation of belief and thanksgiving and the identity of who we are and staying in those vibrations over and over again, and how it impacted us to give better than what we could have thought experiences. The same thing, the last night, I take people on a closing ceremony, and it's, at the ocean, and it's beautiful. It's at sunset. Like, it's just a way for us to celebrate everything that we've accomplished. And I'd like to take them to a restaurant, like a local restaurant, to do the celebration. Same thing. We plan on taking them to this one restaurant. And for whatever weird reason, like, they closed that day. And that wasn't the plan, like, a couple days before. And I'm like, okay, this or something better. And they took us to this beautiful higher end restaurant on the beach with a better view than the one that we had originally planned for. Like, you guys, you have to trust that it's going to work out. And when I think about this retreat, and I think about all of the little lessons that I saw in this, I'm going to give you another example of this manifestation stuff. So I gave myself the permission to buy my very first class airline ticket. So like, this is a big step for me, because I'm a small town country girl. And for me to give myself that permission to spend that extra money was a big deal, but I wanted to show up in that space because the whole purpose behind the Becoming Experience Retreat is to become her, to become the person capable of making it happen, to step into the future version of herself that's already successful and confident and courageous and has already like just is a boss. Like that's the whole point of this, is to step into this future version, to look around and see the luxury and know that it's on its way to you, to be able to know that the impact that you're making is beyond anything that you could have ever imagined, to know that you can step into this confident, beautiful, powerhouse version of yourself. And I wanted to show up in that space. And so I'm like, all right, like first class, here I go. By the way, like the meals are amazing. Just it's a phenomenal experience. So I won't turn down a good mimosa in the morning, right? Because of that. So here I am, flying back actually from Costa Rica. And I had discovered that, the seats that I had picked for the way down and the way back, they were all the same. They were in the 5th row window seat. And I was thinking to myself, you know what? I would actually rather be in the aisle, and I would rather be up a little further up because of the service is a little faster. So I looked on the airline and there was nothing available. I was like, okay, whatever. So here I am in my first class seat, 5D, and I noticed that there is a husband and a wife that are across the aisle from each other, and across like the aisle and like in a different row, and they're trying to talk to each other. And I was like, are you guys together? And like, yeah. I'm like, would you like to sit together? And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And so they were so thankful because I gave up my seat and let them sit together. And I got the aisle seat in the rows ahead, like exactly what I wanted. And they were so grateful because I was willing to give up my seat. They're like, please accept these chocolate covered coffee beans. Like they're so good and blah, blah, blah. Like, and they were so appreciative and they gift me. And I'm like, all I wanted was to sit in the aisle and sit in the row ahead. And it just manifested itself that way. And so be open and curious and be ready for this cool adventure because you never know where it's going to take you. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the experience itself because it's just such a beautiful, beautiful memory for me. So I showed up and I was walking around the property, noticed there were monkeys that were flying through the trees in the morning. Like it was so fun to watch them. The house was right on the beach. And when the tide was low, it looked like it was just giant mud muddy area. And I was like, oh man, like this sucks, right? Thinking in my head, like I was disappointed that this is what the beach looked like. Because when the tide was in, I think I'm saying that right. When the tide was high, all of that was covered. But when the tide went out, and the tide was lower, this like what looked like mud showed. Well, it wasn't mud. Actually, it was lava that had hardened into stone, and it looked like mud. Like that's how fast it had hardened, and it created this beautiful, beautiful landscape. And these, there was one area that was like a divot in the lava, in the rock, that was kind of like the size of a big hot tub. And what happened was as the water came into the rocks during the day, when the tide was high, it filled up this hole. And so as the tide got, low again, that water would go back into the ocean and this pool would be sitting there being warmed by the sun. And we would go into that pool at night and it was like clear and beautiful. You could see these beautiful colored rocks in the bottom of it. And we would literally sit at eye level of the ocean. Like what the heck? At eye level of the ocean, we would watch as the sun came down in this beautiful warmed up tide pool, steps away from the villa. The chef that I mentioned, he brought us 3-course meals at every meal. Like he presented them. Like it was an appetizer, an entree, and an amazing dessert, fresh fruit juices that they created themselves, like Costa Rican coffee. It was out of this world. Like every single meal was so amazing. And like we were all joking around, like, well, where's Lucho? Like, I don't understand. I have to cook now? Like, what the heck? But all of this allowed for us to recognize, like, this is out there. It's out there for us. And God placed us in this beautiful path of recognizing everything that he's capable of and the impact that we can make and the beautiful life that we can have. And we allowed ourselves to step into it. Now, the curriculum that I do is all about that identity shift and becoming her. If we don't believe that it's possible, it's really hard for us to get up and do the hard things. It's really hard for us to be consistent. It's really hard for us to show up in the energy that we need to be in order to have a powerful conversation with people and to have other people trust us and know that we're the person for them, right? And so we have to be able to become her in order to make that happen. And I have done so much research in brain science, so much research in metaphysics, and really aligning everything with what I know about scripture that helps us to see ourselves the way God sees us, to see ourselves as that future version of ourselves that's fully capable of everything working out, that already knows that you've got this, and it's just a matter of stepping into her. And what happens is when we step into that place, when we step into that version of ourselves, we make the small decisions moment after moment that are going to be in alignment with that person. And that's when we see the transformation. So if I am the person that is taking care of my body and I feel sexy and fit and tone, guess what? I'm going to choose to get up and work out instead of staying in bed longer. I'm going to choose to take the stairs instead of the elevator. If I know that I'm a boss that has a multi-million-dollar empire and I'm helping people like massively across the world, then guess what? I'm going to show up in that energy when I get on Zoom. I'm going to show up in that energy when I'm giving a speech. I am going to show up in that energy when I'm in DMs or creating my social media posts, because that's the person I am. And guess what? That person is not afraid. She's not afraid of rejection. She's not afraid of putting herself out there. She's not afraid of taking risks. And when I use that identity as the baseline for the decisions that I'm making moment by moment, that trail is going to lead me to my amazing destination of the life that I want, the life that God has placed in my heart, the life that he knows I'm capable of. And once I can accept her, receive that gift, receive that identity of that person, everything else starts to fall into place. So that's the brain science, because the brain that cannot tell the difference between what is imagined and what has actually happened. And so what I'm doing in this space is I'm leveraging the mirror neurons that are going to look for evidence to support the inner belief. And I allow us to be able to experience this in a way that tricks our brain into thinking that we're already there, that this is already who we are. And I use various different brain science exercises for us to be able to imprint those thoughts, those visions, and allow for us to take those things home with us so that we can show up as her, even when things get hard, when comparison starts to drag us down, when doubt starts to drag us down, when confusion or lack of motivation drag us down. We can take ourselves back to that place with some of the tools that I give people. I also love to recognize the fact that metaphysics is leverage in this place, because when I can stay in the emotions of love, joy, passion, freedom, gratitude, my electrons in my body are literally vibrating faster. And other things that are vibrating at that same frequency are going to be entangling with my electrons. We're literally going to be dancing together. That's conscious thoughts. That's people that are going to start presenting them into my lives. It's ideas that I've never had before. It's a solution I've never thought of. It's all of the things that are aligning with that frequency will literally become part of my consciousness because of the vibration of that. So the more that I can stay up there, the better. And I executed that by using the experiences that we had and the trainings and music and smell and taste and all of the things from our senses to be able to take that in and to keep us in that high vibration state so that we can have the breakthroughs that are necessary to get us to the next level. It's so much fun. We talked about visualization and how we can use that to help us not only in the quantum space, but also in the brain science space, because again, our brain can't tell the difference between what's real and what's, imagined or a memory. And so we use things like visualizations and things like affirmations to to restructure the belief system of who we think we are. And our brain will look for things in the outside world to match our inside world. So if this is who we think we are, it allows for our brain to literally look for subconsciously things that align with that and to see the world from that vantage point. So I have seen, since I've been working with people quitting their jobs, I've seen people doubling their rates. I've seen massive transformation just because of this identity shift and allowing us to be able to use our brain science to our advantage and allow for us to leverage the metaphysics to bring all of this stuff into fruition in that way. It's so powerful to watch. And then of course, what can we do to leverage the things that we are learning, the things that we're experiencing to be able to experience them when we get home? So I had a dear friend create a signature blend of essential oils that made this scent unique to this experience. So now whenever we get home, all we need to do is get out that roller ball and we can take ourselves back to that space. I created a playlist of music that allows for us to get back to that space. The affirmations that I allowed them to create, use a technology, a software that I have access to right now, very newly accessed to the software, but it will allow for you to take an affirmation, pair it with music, and then it can get to the frequency that it needs to be able to, so that you can hear it in the center of your head. What that does is it allows for theta waveforms to accomplish in your brain. And theta allows for you to cross the conscious barrier into the subconscious. So I allow for them to create affirmations that don't have to be blocked by logic, that allows itself to go into our subconscious so that we can start looking at ourselves from that lens. My affirmations are: I am a strong, bold, confident powerhouse. I am changing lives. I am anointed and equipped by God. I'm courageous and free. Those are things that I needed my subconscious to completely acknowledge, recognize, take on, and utilizing the software allows for my brain to accept it easier so that it becomes part of who I am. Then my brain is going to look for things in the outside world to validate that. And that's exactly what was happening on my way home when things just clicked, when I got the seat that I wanted, when we got a better chef than what we wanted, a better restaurant than we wanted. All of those things are not a coincidence, you guys. All of those things are literally proof of everything that I've been teaching. And I got to show that to the participants. It was an intimate environment. We got to know each other really, really well. We got to support one another. We got to prove to ourselves what we're capable of, what we're worthy of, what God is trying to give us. And I will never forget. I will never forget it. The lessons that we learned, the camaraderie that we built, the scene of the manifestation with God and watching him work in wondrous ways was a life-changing experience for me. And I know it was for my gals too. So I thought, what a better way to start out my very first Spiral Up podcast episode with the highlights of this life-changing experience that I'm just, coming off of, and staying in that vibration and allowing for you guys to hear the excitement in my voice and to get some behind the scenes of what happened while we were there. And if you guys want, check out my social media for some pictures. I created lots of reels so that you guys can see all of the beauty that we were surrounded by. And I just want you guys to know that there is a big, beautiful life in store for you, that there are ways that you can level up, and that I know that it's easy for us to spiral down. It's easy for us to get caught up in doubt. It's easy for us to get caught up in procrastination or perfectionism or overwhelm. It's easy for us to get caught up in confusion and all the things that can cause us to spiral down. But let's learn to spiral up together. Let's learn to start accepting this big, beautiful vision that God has placed in our hearts. Let's allow us to step into that version of ourselves that can make it happen. Let's start to make a massive impact in the world. I want the world to be better because I was here. I'm leveraging this journey and this platform to help people see that you are capable of more than you're giving yourself credit for. And I want to walk alongside of you, and I want to show you how to do it. I want you to feel like you have a partner in this. I want you to know that somebody's cheering you on. So thanks for tuning in today. I cannot wait to see you guys next week here inside of the Spiral Up podcast, wherever you're listening. Thanks so much for subscribing. Leave a review. Let me know that you're here. I love it when people shout me out in their stories. So if you leave a review and shout me out in your stories, I have a special gift for you. So don't forget to subscribe, shout me out in your stories, let me know that you're tuning in, and I will send you a special gift. All right, you guys, I hope that you have a great day, and I will see you very, very soon. So much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. Each honest review helps me spiral up so that I can serve you even better. Whether you're feeling a lack of impact, income, or time freedom, or perhaps you're just ready for massive momentum in your business, let's chat. Apply for a breakthrough call so that you can gain clarity, identify what's holding you back, and make a plan to spiral up. Head on over to im-lifebydesign.com/breakthrough or access the link in the show notes. For immediate support, log into our community, the Better Club. We focus on inspiration, practical guidance, and support. This is a community that wants to be better, do better, and have better in life and in